Hello Booktube, I'm Scott.
I'm now.
And we're going to talk about, it's our TBR essentially,
No.
but it's not really.
I'm not reading even close to all of these books. We want to talk about non-fiction November and all the things that we could possibly read in that month for that theme. I don't do TBRs because they stress me out, but also I think sometimes it's about sharing all the things that we think are interesting, because maybe you might think they're interesting and you might want to go out and add these to your TBR.
And previously I've been doing like a diet TBR. I've been doing like 4 or 5 books that I know I'll get through. But today we're going to do like a monster list of books.
Yeah, this is going to be huge. So have you got a cup of tea?
And the other thing that is really good is all you people out there watching it, tell us what's good.
Yeah.
Like give
if you've
us...
read one of these and it's rubbish, tell me about it.
Well, the first book, though, we are definitely reading because we're
buddy reading this. Yeah, but Kim from K. Becker's. Yeah, channel name.
It's only on every single one of her videos.
I just don't remember them. Just shush.
I know. I'm just picking on you.
We've selected The Unwomanly Face of War to read together. I'm really excited about this. This is basically one of those books about chicks doing things that chicks aren't supposed to do, which makes me just so happy.
Yeah.
Why are you excited about it? You're not a girl.
I always like reading about feminist stuff. I like reading about classist stuff and racist stuff and feminist stuff and all of the things. I can't experience what it's like to be a woman, but I can experience prejudice, so I can put myself in those situations, but I can't experience the nuances and all of that sort of stuff. And it's fascinating, and it's really good when they kick ass.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know how much kick ass is going to be in this book and how much like terrifying atrocity, but I think it will be interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that one for sure.
All right.
I'm going to talk about this one next because I feel like it.
Sure.
I got this at an op shop or a thrift store if you're not an Aussie. It's called The Widow Cleopatra, and it is about a woman being a champ.
Isn't it Click?
Maybe?
Because it's after the champagne.
It is. It's the family who own the Champagne Empire, and the woman who built it. So
I really like that champagne too.
Me too. I think that's actually the reason I picked it up.
Yeah.
I think the reason I bought it was because I think it was like $1. And it's about women kicking ass with booze.
Wow. 2 good topics then.
Yeah, I'm interested. What about you?
Okay, well, you put this one down. If you watched our haul, or maybe if you watched it in the future, depending on the order they get published in.
Yeah.
You will already know this book. I saw this on Sarah MG Reads, and I just simply had to have it. It is basically a conversation about how the Bible has changed throughout time and the people who changed it and why they changed it and the motivations behind it.
And when it was not accidental.
Yeah, when it was not accidental. Sometimes it was accidental and all of that. So it sounds very like I'm going to hell for reading it, but
it sounds interesting.
Sounds super interesting, yeah.
I bought this for my husband 8 or 9 years ago as a Christmas present. A One-Way Road, Robbie McEwen. We have spent an obscene amount of time watching road cycling in our relationship. And this is one of the few Aussie cyclists that I think doesn't have a bum chin.
I'm not really sure how many cycling fans there are on BookTube.
What is the Venn diagram of cycling fans and people who watch our YouTube
That would be
channel?
quite interesting. But if you do know who Cadell Evans is, and if you don't know who Cadell Evans is, Google him and tell us.
Tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust a person with a bum chin like that?
Does he have a bottom on his chin?
But I'm keen to read, good old sporting memoir, One Way Road.
Is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I thought you might be interested in that. It's obviously a feminist novel. It's quite old now, isn't it? Because it's by Simone de Beauvoir.
Yeah.
But yes, so that'll be. I don't really know much about it other than
I know, old, outdated feminist theory sounds interesting.
Very early feminist novel. Yeah.
I've got some basic bitch Brene Brown, Braving the Wilderness. I don't know how this ended up in my collection, but I actually
You bought it.
Did I really buy it?
Yeah, you went through a whole Brene Brown thing. You made me watch the TED Talk.
She's interesting, and I quite... some of her things are useful. I'm not into the whole cult of personality that happens around people who talk about this kind of research. It bothers me, but her research is basic, like the mechanisms of psychology that we need to enjoy our life. Who's not interested in enjoying their life? Scott is not.
I like Thomas Hardy.
So I will be reading that.
The next one I've got on my list of and audiobooks is Friedrich Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil.
Ooh.
Because Nietzsche. I've not read Nietzsche before, so that is an interesting experiment.
Foreword by Brene Brown. I just saw on this. A good friend of mine sent me The Art of Asking, which I think is an awesome... I really like Amanda Palmer. I think she rocks. I also am into anything that challenges the basic assumptions of capitalism and anything that promotes art. So I'm into this. I will probably read it. Having read a lot of Amanda Palmer's writing online, I know that this will be super easy to consume and super narrative in style. So I am looking forward to sort of where all the discussion that she is in the middle of now began.
I know Any Excuse to Get Naked and Amanda Palmer go together, but it's a book cover.
Put your judgment away.
Okay.
Just being yourself.
Fair enough. The next one, this has been on my TBR forever, and frankly, I'm sick of seeing it on there. So it's, I think most of BookTube will know this book. It's Bill Bryson, A Brief History of Nearly Everything. Sorry, a short history of nearly everything.
Oh, yes.
Where he basically talks about everything very quickly. I don't know. I've not read it.
Sounds like he could be funny.
I mean, he is a comedy writer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm almost sick of seeing it existing, so I want to get rid of it, which is not the motivation I want for reading a book.
No, that's very Negatron.
Yeah. Oh, this one looks good.
This was a good idea to stack them all face down, and you can gauge how excited I am by them when I pick them up.
Yeah, this one looks super interesting. We got this in our mini library.
Yeah, we went and found some little free libraries, and this is one of the ones that we got in that haul. Julian Burnside has written this, and Julian Burnside, for anyone who's not Australian or is Australian and has their head in the sand, Julian Burnside is a human rights lawyer who spends a great deal of time and effort working towards fixing our horrific criminal refugee system. And this is his book. One of more than one title. I know he's written more than one book, but Watching Brief Reflections on Human Rights, Law and Justice. I know this will be very well informed. I'm sure it will be devastating. I know that our system is very, very broken, but every time I read more about it, it's more broken than I thought it was. So
Julian Burnside is so well spoken as well. I
is
can't imagine that he's
beautifully
writing
spoken. I am actually quite interested to see what his writing style is like, because often lawyers are a bit difficult to. They're just a bit crunchy, you know?
Lots of clauses in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like
They're used to reading them.
It's not really about ease of reading or enjoyment of reading, but he does a lot of public speaking and all that. So he's not, he's not your boffin.
Yeah. I'm going to do 2 for 1 because I've got the same author, but I can't figure out where he is. There he is. Jared Diamond wrote Guns, Germs and Steel, and he also wrote The Third Chimpanzee. Now, I have these books, and I'm not really sure what they're about. Going by the cover, I'm going to say that Guns, Germs and Steel might be about some sort of war on the Native American people.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
okay.
I think that might be what it's about. And The Third Chimpanzee looks almost certain to be about human evolution.
Which is a pet topic of yours.
It's one of my favourite topics. I love human evolution, yeah.
I know which one he's picking up first.
It's probably the Bill Bryson one.
Because you stick a C in it.
Yeah.
Everyone has raved about this, and I haven't read it, but my mum bought it for me for Christmas last year, so I should read it before Christmas this year, shouldn't I? Is that a rule?
No.
Not for my mum, anyway. Becoming by Michelle Obama. Yeah, memoir. It counts.
Memoirs are non-fiction, I think.
It counts.
They're certainly not fiction.
Well, I hope it's not fiction.
Yeah. That would be funny. All right. Going on my list of ridiculously old authors who have written non-fiction books, I'm going to read some, I might not because this is a long list, some Thoreau and Walden. Life in the Woods.
Yeah, okay. You're not getting to that.
Yeah.
Maybe you do. I don't know. What is there anything in particular you're excited about that, or you just?
It's just really old, and I feel like I
got
should
a
read
list?
it.
Yeah, okay.
There's really there's nothing that's drawn me to it other than the fact that it's like written in the 1840s or something, and it still exists, and I'm always captivated by books that have managed to stay relevant for so long.
I picked this up in a secondhand bookshop. It's called Dwelling Place, a Plantation Epic. This is an examination of plantation life in coastal Georgia from 1805 to 1869. We talk a lot about race and the problems globally that come from sort of a shared colonial history, and I don't know anything about slavery. I do, but I don't. I know more about the Romans than I do about plantation life, and I feel like that's because it's a little bit of an icky topic. So this is a big fat icky book, which will probably be really good for my soul to read. Somehow, I think.
Yeah. Well, speaking of racism, I know you were talking about slavery, and that's not actually the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like my next book, it's been all over booktube as well. How to Be an Antiracist.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's on my list of possibilities to read. I'm not going to talk about it because booktube has
done that. I've got to say, I was looking at a friend of mine runs a blog called Mass Consternation, and she does book reviews as part of that blog. And I was having a look at her non-fiction title, and she had a how to be an activist in the modern age, which isn't specifically about learning about anti-racism, but I thought that was a really interesting topic to write a book on, because armchair activism is so prevalent, and like, really, are we doing anything? But she gave it 5 stars, so that might get added to my little book list.
Yeah. All right. Well, then the next one that I'll add in is we just watched a movie last night. It was really good. And I hate movies. Movies are just like how to murder a book. But we watched, what was it called? The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yeah.
And that's it's based on a real life event, and one of the main characters in it is a man called Abby Hoffman, who was an anti-Vietnam War campaigner and political activist and all sorts of, general troublemaker on the left.
Long-haired hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Founded the political group the Yippies.
The Yippies!
Anyway, Abby Hoffman wrote a book called Steal This Book.
I've heard of that.
And I have, as soon as we watched that, and at the end it said Abby Hoffman wrote Steal This Book, I'm like, well, I've heard of that. Let's see if Scribd has it. And Scribd has a really tacky PDF version that I will try and read.
They probably stole it.
Probably so. It does feel like stealing it when it's a tacky PDF version.
Speaking of stealing, I stole this from my husband's bookshelf. A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. I watched his biopic the other day, which romanticized his motor neuron disease no end, and still made him look like a bastard to his wife, just so you know.
Yeah. I think that might actually be a thing.
Yeah, I think it might actually be a thing. I also think that they tried really hard to make it look like she was the one who was, anyway. And he still looked like an asshole. But this intrigues me. It's not necessarily my field of knowledge, but I live with Scott.
Yeah, I know I've got a degree in physics, which means I don't really like to read.
No, but it means that we often talk about things that are just like a little bit outside my scope. So sometimes a book like this can help me in those conversations. And also, sometimes I've been introduced to these ideas before, so when I come to a book like this, I actually have less trouble than I would have otherwise. It's a good little... They feed each other.
Yeah. I've got another one of Stephen Hawking's books, not in this pile. God Created the Integer. In A Brief History of Time, he said some publisher told him every equation he puts in the book will halve his sales. He said he's putting E equals MC squared in the book, and he hopes that equation won't halve his sales. But God Created the Integer, he must have sold about 2 copies. It is a textbook. It has all sorts of funky mathematics, which you like esoteric symbols that you need to know about to read, or otherwise it's like those old Victorian novels where they're like, oh, and suddenly we're going to talk French for just a little bit
because we assume you speak French.
But that would be really interesting if I picked that up, because I say I'm not interested in physics and maths because I studied it, and reading non-fiction on it is like...
Yeah, it's normally too simple.
Yeah, that's it. But I might see if that book...
We've got a few sort of mathematical non-fictions laying around that will eventually creep onto my TBR and then off again.
Yeah. Oh, is it my turn or your turn?
It's your turn.
Yeah, I'm going to do another twofer because I've got 2 books by this author, and I think we'll put them together. I've got 2 books by Michael Pollan on my TBR. How to Change Your Mind and The Omnivores Dilemma. Now, I know The Omnivores Dilemma is about food. Mm-hmm. How to Change Your Mind, I assume that's about changing your mind. Like, I don't know.
I suspect it's about like breaking habits and learning how to be happy and that sort of thing. Right?
Yeah,
because you can.
It's a brain thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both of those would be cool to get to. But as this list gets longer and longer, and I realise quite how big it is, I'm wondering
which ones will actually get read, and
which ones will be on my TBR for non-fiction November 2021.
I do think it's interesting because we've got all these non-fiction books for non-fiction November. Are you planning to read no fiction in November? Is this an anti-fiction month for you?
It depends. I have other goals that I have to consider with my reading.
Yeah.
And I have books that I'd like to finish by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And while, look, Victober is fantastic and non-fiction November is fantastic.
Why are they at the end of the year, people?
But this idea that I can finish all the stuff that I put off because I had heaps of time and suddenly throw myself into Victober and throw myself into non-fiction November and then December's there.
And we usually work quite hard in December.
Which is good for me.
Yeah. Not so for me.
Yeah.
Okay, my next book is Heavy by... No. Casey Layman.
Casey Layman?
Casey? Kiese. I'm not sure. This is about an African American officer. And I'm super interested in this.
Whenever I see that book on your TBR, I start singing, and I won't sing because...
you shouldn't sing in public.
Yeah, but I start singing, he's not heavy, he's my brother.
Yes. But he is heavy. And I think that's interesting. This, and If It Arrives in Time, Hunger by Roxane Gay is the other one.
Oh. This one has Roxane Gay on the back of it, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Heavy is astonishing, difficult, intense, layered, wow, just wow.
Just wow.
Certainly like something that
impresses
Roxane Gay.
Yeah.
Where am I up to? John Julius Norwich wrote A History of France. That's just something I want to read because I want to know about the history of France.
Because you're a completionist.
Well, I've read something about the history of England and something about the history of Scotland and something about the history of Ireland. I feel I better branch out onto the continent. Hopefully at some point I'll get to Africa because I feel like I've been a bit white-centric there.
A smidge.
Yeah.
Jessamine Ward, Men We Reaped, which is a memoir again. It's about loss and losing four men who were quite dear to her and her process through that grief. Very.
Well, I got another two booker because I do. Robin Wall Kimmer is like an expert in like, I want to say biology, but like weird biology. She has two books
weird biology.
It's like things that you think are so boring but are actually super interesting. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She has two books on my TBR: Sweet Grass
Ooh.
and Gathering Moss. So she is an expert in moss and grass and...
Yeah, and that's all Kate's fault, isn't it? I feel like they were both recommended for our book club and didn't get picked.
Yeah, it's Kate's fault for recommending them for our book club.
Yeah.
But...
they're on the list now.
I'm not sure if she recommended both or just one.
She did both because she wanted Katrina to join in the book club, and Katrina is a little bit obsessed with moss.
PhD in moss.
I don't know if that's what she... I don't know.
Anyway.
The
Black Death?
The Black Death, the intimate story of a village crisis, 1345 to 1350. That's 5 years for a pandemic, just saying. Let's hope we never get those death rates.
On the other hand, after the Black Death, the economy did really, really well, which does explain some of the conservative policies around
Trying to kill everyone so the economy goes well, so they
But-
can keep their stinky capitalism.
But the economy worked really well because poor people's wages went up. So just remember that, all you...
Stinky.
Yeah.
We looted this from Little Free Libraries, so I have no background on the quality of the writing or the author, but The Black Death is intriguing, especially now.
Looted.
Looted.
Oh, sorry. That was really necessary, though.
Yeah, we're old and tired.
Yeah, yeah. I want my cardigan and my pipe. Man, why can't I have a pipe? Why did I not grow up 100 years ago so I could have a pipe?
You can have a pipe, you just have to have the cancer that goes with it. And you would have had to have the cancer that goes with it back then, too.
No, I want the ignorance that goes with it.
Oh, you want to not know about the cancer that goes with it. What about I get you a bubble blowing pipe?
Yeah, no, I'm just... No.
No.
It's a fantasy that shouldn't exist. Also, I don't actually like smoking or bubbles. Sidetracked.
What about a monocle?
Now, I'm definitely down for a monocle.
I feel like that's the same sort of wankery thing you can hold and also attach to your face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like a top hat while I'm there.
I'm not getting you.
Anyway, Jacob Abbott wrote Cleopatra. It's very old. And guess what the topic matter is on? Julius
Cardigans.
Caesar. Cardigans, yeah. Yeah, Greek snakes.
Scott read this in April.
Oh, this is good.
Duck Emu. It's about Australians' Indigenous population, and it basically dispels all the things that we were taught in primary school.
It talks about farming and agriculture that they had.
Yeah, it teaches about their society and their communities and the structure and farming and all the things, and uncovers that our education system is full of lies.
It is.
So that's very interesting and should definitely be much further up the list.
Yeah. Well, you didn't actually rank these in
No,
order of
I just went
priority. Yeah. So it's just a coincidence where these are. The next one I've got is Celebrity Crimes by Alexander Dumas. So that is the same Dumas that wrote The Count of Monte Cristo and The Three Musketeers.
So you love him?
I do love him. He wrote a non-fiction book about like the Borgias and the Medicis and all these people who committed horrible crimes throughout history and detailed them.
Okay.
And that
It's interesting.
Yeah.
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 This is my lucky last one. You've probably got 10 to go.
I do.
This is Inside This Place, Not of It. It is a collection of essays from inside American prisons, American women's prisons. I have this because Lauren Wade and her book club, Jean, their book club, the Feminist Orchestra, set it for one of their books, and I picked it up in order to... I basically bought, I think, all of them, and have just been reading them out of order and at my own leisure, because they all sounded like good titles. So, not participating, but participating.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
it.
That's my epic list.
That's your epic list. It comes up from the floor. It comes up to what I'm sitting on. But this just points out how much easier it is to haul electronic books.
I know. I wish I didn't get...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get used to it. I don't have the author for the next book, but it's called Organic Marxism. And
Sounds awesome.
yeah. Also, the Communist Manifesto. I mean, the next one that I think is super interesting is Psychedelic Medication, The Healing Powers of LSD. Oh, you think this sounds like a little bit of playing with your own genitals, don't you?
I really do. Oh.
I think it sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I know you think this next book is interesting. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks.
Yes, that's super interesting.
If you have studied sort of biology, genetics, life sciences of any real persuasion, you probably know what a Lacks cell is, and it came from Henrietta Lacks. So this will be the story of how those regenerative cells came about. Now the next one I have, I've only got 4 to go now.
Oh, that's not too many more than mine.
Yeah. Welsh Legends and Myths by Graham Watkins.
I mean, that's on my list now.
Yeah, Welsh Legends and Myths. How can you not want that? Gary Tubbs, Why We Get Fat and What We Can Do About It. I know that's not something that's interesting to you, because that seems like
Diet culture bullshit.
But it is scientific and not
blah 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 blah
pseudoscience.
blah 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 blah.
Sapien, A Brief History of Humankind. This one I definitely will read for another reason at all. It's written by an author whose name I can't read because I wrote it down myself. But I do know that he is an Israeli author, and one of my goals is to every month read an author from a country that I've never read an author from before. And when we worked out all the countries, I was really surprised that I'd managed to miss Israel. And I said I would remedy that this year at some point.
Wow, now you can.
And I will remedy that in November. I definitely decided to leave that one till late. And then the last one I've got is another classic that everybody will know about, On the Origins of Species by Charles Dickens. And I've also got...
Charles Dickens, huh?
Charles Darwin. They do have very similar names. He's got 2 books, and my brain's just not connecting the other one, but I think I have that somewhere too, but I didn't find it when I wrote the list. No, I can't remember it. But he has 2 books.
That's the list. It's enormous. What do you think? What should we definitely read? What should we heave ho?
Yeah. Trash the ones that are crap as well, if you've read them.
And what are you reading for Nonfiction November? Ready? Go.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.